Hi, I'm Tiffany, and welcome to the Album Diaries. Here I'll be chatting about personal experiences that influenced my musical journey and career. I'll talk monthly about the albums and how they affected my personal life.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is episode 5 of Tiffany, the Album Diaries. I'm Lindsay Lawler. This is my friend and yours, Tiffany.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
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 Today we're going to be talking about the color of silence. But first, before we get to that, I just got to see last weekend Tiffany out on tour for the final show of this leg of the
Yes.
tour. And we talked about that night. It's such a good show and how fun it is. Like you see your friends all the time, but when you have friends that do really cool stuff like Tiffany does, it's so fun to get to see you in your element. Like I see you a lot.
It's been a while since you've seen me play live, actually. I didn't realize how long, like 4 or 5 years
Several years. I
with a
forgot
full
how
band.
good you are.
Well, thank you. I was very proud. That was a great show in Dallas, Texas. Great crowd, Lava Cantina. They were ready to rock. So it makes it so much easier. Band was kicking because now, it's always like that. We've done how many shows? 12 shows, 14 shows, 15 shows, something like that. And then you get better. And now we have a break a little bit because I'm doing some cooking stuff and some other things, all Tiff adventures. And then we'll start again in the fall.
I have a question. So there were girls there, women there dressed in their 80s garb,
Yes.
as I'm sure you get on a daily basis. Do you ever feel the pressure? And I'm sure you do, but how do you, I guess, combat it? Of going, when you're doing the new stuff, just as an artist in general, you try to do new stuff, but people know you for the old stuff, and the pressure of finding, like, how do you balance those
This
two
show, I
worlds?
think, really mixes the two together. So it's rock retro, it's Shadows, which the Shadows album has a little throwback or reach back to punk and to pop music and to a lot of my favorites like the Go Go's, Ramones, Blondie. So, there's that element already in the new music. And the old music, we just rock out a bit more. We've kind of put a new layer, I think, on it. It was always amazing. That 80s infectious energy is still there, but with a little bit of rock and roll and modern production.
So, in a badass band. So they'll do
Thank you.
another leg of the tour this fall. So
Yes.
if you get a
So
chance to
stay
go,
tuned.
get a chance.
tiffanytunes.com, guys. Everything will start to go up probably about August, September. New dates will be coming. So I'll see you there.
We'll see you there. Okay, so the color of silence. Okay, here's what's interesting about this. Again, 19 songs, a lot of music on this record, like the last record. But the last record came out in 1993,
Right.
and there's a gap. This record came out in 2001.
Pretty big of a gap, yeah.
What the heck were you doing?
I was I was a mom. I was also just taking some time off from the music industry. I had moved to Nashville, became a songwriter because that was really something that was a passion of mine. As we've talked about all the things before and all the wonderful, songwriters, I was a part of their world, but it felt like I needed to kind of live up to that a little bit. And obviously it was a struggle with my current production, so disbanded with George Tobin, and I was writing with some of my band members in LA, but Nashville was really something I wanted to do, more for the songwriting experience, and I did that. It was kind of hard because I came in, and of course my name opens up a lot of doors, and I think I bit off more than I could chew, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I was honored to be able to have these meetings with these wonderful writers that are writing my favorite songs, but it was too soon. Like, I didn't play an instrument at all and I still struggle. But I wasn't the Nashville kind of writer. I mean, literally
Mhm.
people mean, we'll book a session in a couple hours, we'll have something. And then the next day you usually do a demo. It works pretty fast in this town. And I didn't have that down. I wasn't that type of writer yet. I may came with a melody or a title or an idea, but to really solidify that and get all the juices flowing and be that quick. So I struggled. And I remember driving home so many times in floods of tears, just going, I suck at this. I don't know. And I just made a fool out of myself. And, you feel with a name that you let people down, that you have to be, I just met with Tiffany and she's all amazing and so gifted. And I was like, no, I just had a
Cut to
meeting.
you in the car.
It was
I
awful.
suck.
What am I doing? I could go do nails or get a job or something. And I did at one time. And that was my whole experience. I worked at Pier 1 actually, and
Wait, what?
I did in Green Hills. Thank you very much, because I really
Shout
did.
out to Pier 1 Green
I
Hills.
know, it was great. I
Can you
love Pier
imagine
1.
walking in being like, "I'll take that couch," and, "Oh my god,
I
are you
did
Tiffany?"
6 a.m. I unloaded the trucks. Thank you very much. Very hearty job. But I
Girl.
made a lot of friends that I still have now. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do something as a person, that because probably at that time I was in Nashville and feeling kind of, wasn't cutting it as the next vision I had for myself as this great songwriter. So a lot of those things happened. I got the opportunity to move back to LA, and that's where I actually shined. I did struggle the first pass here in Nashville as a songwriter. I think I got better. I definitely made connections. People respected me for staying in the game. But I didn't realize how much I had learned until I went back to California and started working with Tim Feehan and the old manager that represented me with George Tobin, Brad Schmidt. And they just proposed to me, you've been kind of dormant for a while. Why don't we do a record? We have our own studio. Come in, see if it works. And sitting down is when I actually started applying my Nashville skills, because LA wasn't as rigid. It wasn't verse, chorus, it
Yeah.
wasn't the structure, which I know how to do now. And I respect, of course. But, a pop record could really take on a certain different form, especially in the 90s. You had a lot of different pre choruses and then into like breakdowns and then a chorus or a short chorus. Things were changing and musically. And it gave me the opportunity to show my experiences that I had in Nashville. I was really a good writer under those terms, and I brought it. If only with Joe Brooks, all these different songs, even "Piss You Off." I mean, I was pissed off, so I wanted to write something, but instead of angry and bitter, it was really, kind of a little bit of tenaciousness of, I'm going to get back at you, and also some funny things of how you do get back at people. Fill the fridge of foods that they hate. That's a little mean, but true.
It
Just daily things, and I to be able to write things like that and be funny, or it to be again fluid and people understand it. I was like, I learned a thing. All that hardship and all those heartbreaks and all of that struggle did in a different light. It was worth it. It was
was
worth
worth it,
something.
and you found a place to channel it, and
Yeah.
let's talk a bit about because this is the first record that you really start writing or that you're allowed to start
That I
writing.
really, yes, I demanded that I wrote on this, which actually there was a place for me. I didn't have to demand. They were all about opening those doors for me and working with me. And it was really working with Tim that was amazing. Joe Brooks on this one, as well for If Only. And a lot of the musicians that played on this album and writers. But it was me writing a lot of it. Again, once I started, it just started to flow from me. I guess I didn't feel pressure like I did at that time in Nashville. Um, so sometimes freedom, you just kind of flow into it. And then having a place that I felt I could land safely. Nothing was stupid if I said something or it didn't rhyme or we had to fix the melody. I had a little bit of leeway there and I was respected and valued. And I think that makes the most difference when you're working on records.
And then once you turn that faucet on, it's really hard to turn it off. And
It
you're
is.
still writing to this day. Talk a little bit about though, because I know I have this insecurity as a songwriter, as an artist, because I tinker on instruments, but I don't play an instrument. And
Right.
I held it as an insecurity for so long until my uh, a guy Chris that I write with quite a bit said to me, "I'm glad you don't play because you come in, you focus on the melody, you have the idea, and you don't get in the way of me playing."
Right.
You know, and so have you gone through that sort of insecurity, or has it
I
not been a hindrance to
I
you?
think it frustrates me as a writer. I mean, it's like I earlier we heard Mark on the piano here. This beautiful loft has all these little inlets of instrumentations and wonderful areas that you can, and a great kitchen. But it's
NashvilleMusicLoft.com.
beautiful. But beautiful piano. And I wish I could do that. I wish I could just walk over and play or write. Because sometimes as a writer, you have this little seed inside of you, and there or this little idea or this hurt and pain, whatever it is, and it's not. it needs to come out of you. So for me, I just go to my voice, memos, and I sing to myself, and I take a walk, and and I kind of do that and put those away, so at least they're coming out. But yeah, it would be nice, and that's still on my agenda for the self growth is to be able to play more piano. You got to practice. It doesn't come natural to me. But that's something I would love to do. I would love to sit down and play some of my songs. Probably could have been. So, I would love to
Yay.
do that. It's a hard one though. Biting off for more than I can chew again. But yeah, I mean, this Color of Silence was really, I mean, we said Color of Silence because I was silent for so many years and
Tiffany,
finding myself, I think, just as a person.
what is the color?
I don't know what the color of silence. And for me, it's my favorite color. I think black, but apparently it's not a color. But again, I was growing as a person, so I think I needed all that time. And then this record kind of spawned it all, over again for me. The big, she's a songwriter. She's back. We did Behind the Music after this. A few things on major interviews. Gosh, there was a lot of publicity on this album. And I think it really started the foundation for me again.
What song on this record would you say means the most to you, or is the most personal to you? Piss you off?
No, if only probably because that was written about Frank D'Amato, who was my bodyguard, and Elijah, my son's godfather, but became my best friend. And just somebody who was supportive of me separately from being a bodyguard. He was, there for me when I was going through a lot of things with my family, getting my first home, moving out on my own, just all of that awkward, that scary, uh, going and finding myself as Tiffany in public places or going out in Hollywood and the trouble like we talked about you could get into. So Frank was always my guy that was like, let's talk about this, so like a big brother. And when he passed away from cancer, it was devastating. It was, he was very young, and it was completely unexpected. And there was just this hole there with a lot of my family members. He'd gotten close to all my family, of course, Elijah's godfather. So it was, like losing a brother. I've never had a brother before, but he was as close as it gets.
The idea of having a bodyguard. First of all, I forget sometimes that my friend is uber famous. Um, the idea of having a bodyguard, like, what is that even like? Did he go everywhere with you?
He
What,
went everywhere with me.
like
Yeah. I
grocery
mean,
store?
well, I mean, usually when we traveled, I'd have to have Frank with me, and then he went all the, personal appearances, public appearances, the Grammys, things like that. It's normal to have a bodyguard. But then
Casual.
when I wasn't on the road, he actually didn't live too far, and he knew my hometown, Norwalk, and I mean, he was just a down home guy, so we had much more in common than just, a bodyguard. He knew where I came from, and we had a lot of friends in common, even though he was older than me. So, and his family was Sicilian. My family's Arabic. So we talked a lot about like, old worlds and family and, the crazy of our family and vibrant characters. And of course, we both were foodies. So, it was a lot of that. So he would used to come over, and actually it was Frank who got me into MMA, Thai boxing, fitness. I started going to the gym with him all the time, and it really changed my life a lot at that time because I think that, again, I've never been dependent on a drug, but I was, dabbling in the drug scene a little bit. And to have fitness come into my life, I really loved it. I felt great in nature. I loved the walks. I loved going to the gym. Thought I was going to be a bodybuilder for a little bit because I did Gold's Gym and all that jazz. And I just loved it. I really enjoyed it. I still do, and I'm going to get better. I'd love to devote that much time to myself again because it is amazing. I think back in the '80s, everybody was doing it so extreme, but yeah, it was really cool. We became friends on a different level, and he showed me a different side of myself probably that I'd never known about myself, which is nature and fitness and health and healthy mind and good relationships and fun. And even in a Christian sense, he was the first one to take me to a open-minded church that you could be who you were. You didn't have to turn it on and then turn it off. It was, well, God sees everything, so that's kind of silly. And I had never really had that perspective before because I came mainly from a Baptist church with my mom, and they weren't overly religious, but you did the whole church thing, and everybody was kind to each other, and and it was like, well, you guys were just yelling at each other in the parking lot like 10 minutes ago, but in front of everybody, we're like so good. So I never really got it, and you felt like you put on the church face. But with him, it was great to be around musicians and cool Christian music, even at that time, which was more rock and roll and saying the truth that you can make mistakes, but you're just trying to do the right thing and have a good heart and an open heart. And, so it was all of that experience that I think led into that if only song. If you really knew that you didn't have that much time with that person, how much you would not take that for granted. Or I'm very blessed that we did have a lot of time together. We toured the world together, but that song in itself, it really is important to me. I don't sing it a lot because I can't get through it. I
Did y'all
cry.
ever have any scary moments where like you really needed him there?
Oh, definitely. There was a lot of like people that, bum rushed the stage. There was a lot of crazy, just activity around me, some places that we went that ended up not being safe, that he had to get me out of there that had nothing to do with me. But yeah, I mean, definitely when you're at that time, that was the height of my career. So, you're definitely a focus wherever you go. People know you're there and they're wanting to get to know you or talk to you or, have weird intentions, whatever it is.
Think they already do know you.
Sometimes.
You know who you are. Just kidding. And so at this time, your son is what, probably like 9, 10, somewhere in that department?
Elijah is at this time probably about, I would want to say he's probably about 7, 8
7,
at
8.
this
Okay.
time. I should know that. But yes, he's about 7, 8. And he's doing his thing, going to school, and I'm going to the studio every day.
And you're doing this, you were a single parent this time, right? Or wrong?
I, well, was getting kind of a divorce at the time. There was separation going on. And so I was working. I was going in the studio every day, and Elijah would go to school. And this was like my job. I loved, going. I mean, it was in Glendale, California, not too far. And, it took me a while again, like I said, because I hadn't made a record in a while. So it took me a while to kind of get into it. But it became like work. I went to work and I loved it. I was there all day until Elijah got off of school. And then, I would go and pick him up and be mom, and I had the best of both worlds.
Do you think, and I'm sure that he does, but have you ever had a discussion with Elijah? Did he understand at the time his mom's fame? And have you ever talked to him about how that is both helped and hindered his life, both sides of it?
Well, we've talked about it a little bit. It's really not hindered his life. Um, and no, he doesn't really see me still like that.
It's like, whatever, mom, you worked
He's
at
like,
Pier 1.
anyway,
I know
yeah.
you.
Yeah, I'm just mom. I think he knows and he's proud, but I don't think that, it's something that he doesn't really tell people. Oh, yeah, my mom's Tiffany. The only time was when he wanted some Nickelodeon in his life. Then he seemed to throw my name around a little bit.
But he can get something out
When
of
he
it.
could go to Nickelodeon, yeah. Well, we did. We went to all the premieres, and that was fun. That was like, when you go places and you can have your family around and they're enjoying it. I feel that's when it's like, oh, this is cool. It's not just a gig, but it's something that your family can enjoy. Because I mean, again, I go back to country music. I saw most female singers with their kids and their dogs and their husband, and everybody went on down the road, and that has its complications. But for the most part, you have your home on the road. You have your heart on the road. You're not making that split, you know.
The I have to tell this story real quick because it's so funny. It's how Tiffany and I officially met. Um, Speaking of family members using your name, so I was singing downtown at Tootsie's, and Tiff and I had been introduced by a friend, and we'd been trying to get together to do lunch or
Mhm.
something, and just hadn't been able to make it work. And I was playing downtown at Tootsie's, and I took a break, and this man came up to me in the crowd
Yeah.
and said, and it was literally like that. Hey kid, I think you're gonna be a star. I'm gonna make you a star. And I was like, okay, great. And he said, well, my daughter's Tiffany. And I was like, oh, I'm having lunch with her next week. He's like, oh. well, crap!
So
Don't tell her I
sad.
used your
I
name.
threatened my dad when he first moved to Nashville. I said, "Dad, it's not like the old times, okay? It's not, hey, partner, and give you a handshake. This is professional now. And I have a name, and I can't just like, you can't just promise things to people. You have to just, you do you, and I'll do me." And in a very loving way, but I said that to him because I had to have boundaries with my dad because he was lovely and he talked to everybody and he would get into his head, yeah, we should do that, and get me into all sorts. So
And he was a great dancer.
I did have to say, Dad, you do you, and that's cool. So don't mention my name. And it was like the first week he was here that he moved here, and he was out, and then
Talent scouting
he
downtown.
came home and he confessed. So he's like, I need to tell you something. I think I ran into a friend of yours. I was like, really? What did you say?
Oh, I love it. It's literally one of my favorite memories
Yeah,
of living in
he's
Nashville.
still, yeah. But it was amazing, even, going back to family. I mean, having that relationship here that everybody knew my dad and everybody had their own relationship with him. And since he's passed away as well. But that, that experience, all of those things going back to songwriting, all of these things that you live through as a songwriter, it comes through you. You're constantly making these memories, good or bad or unfortunate, life moves on. So, all of these things, I think that the color of silence has really given me that platform. I always look at this album and really, kind of cherish it, that was the one, that was the beginning. And we've just gotten better, hopefully, since then.
So while back to let's finish talking on writing because I know this is so important to you, and it's so cool to see to after talking about the previous albums, knowing that you weren't writing on it, and then to be able to start writing. Do you feel like sitting here today, you have really shown people your true, not that you're hiding anything, but really gotten to a place yet where you can be like, here's who I am. I'm going to say everything. Or do you think you will always be growing to get to that?
I think that I'll always be a writer that is constantly evolving, hopefully. There's like things storytelling that like a Bruce Springsteen kind of way that talks about the common man or a day in the life, and to paint those stories are really hard and not cheesy, but you can, as he's writing the songs or hearing the songs, even though you've never maybe been to Philadelphia or Jersey or Colorado or whatever, you just know it. It's like to tell those types of stories. So I want to grow into that type of writer. And I think for me, I'm always going to use it as therapy for myself. Whatever I'm going through will land in a song. And then, of course, I hear my fan stories. Meet and greets with me really are hanging out. We have coffee, and usually I have like little nibbles, and I'm like, everybody wants some food, and they're like, what is happening? But I do mean sincerely the time that I spend with fans. I get to know your lives and how my music is affecting you, but also what you're going through. And, you know, that's pretty much what we're all going through. We all have this common thread of the thing called life. And I'm very lucky and very blessed that as a I keep calling it storyteller, as a songwriter, that I just can pick up these things and hopefully make some beautiful happen, or some release, or some joy out of bad circumstances, or just some party songs. There's nothing wrong with
A
that.
little escape.
Just some fun.
We're talking with Tiffany. This is the Album Diaries, episode 5, The Color of Silence. I want to wrap it up by asking you, what is your favorite memory that stands out during this time, this record, whether a show or personal, or anything that stands out the most to you as your heartfelt moment?
Well, I mean, this is where I did get to work with Bone Thugs and
Oh
Harmony.
my God, yes.
So Crazy Bone was cool on this record. So, doing something that was a crossover or something different. Again, I think this was one of the first times that it was like, what? She's doing a collaboration with who?
Makes me so
And I've
happy.
since then continued to do more, and I hope to do more. Just to, keep people on their toes. But also, I love it. I love musicians. And it was just offered to me. They were doing a record in the same studio. And I thought that'd be cool. So I'm Not Sleeping, which is a song that we, submitted to a lot of, and it's about domestic violence. And it was a theme song for a lot of domestic violence, PBS, and a lot of different avenues. So, it was cool. that he came out and he rapped on that song, and it sounds really cool. I mean, he just put the icing on the cake.
Boom, boom, boom,
Thank you,
boom.
Crazy Bone.
Crazy Bone. Tiffany, the Album Diaries, episode 5, The Color of Silence. Go download it now if you haven't already heard it. Check back next month for the next record. How many years in between the next record do we have?
Oh no, we were off to the races after this
Okay.
one. We
Okay.
kept it going. Yeah, we haven't stopped really since.
We get to working.
Ow.
Make sure you're already following her online, Tiffany Tunes, and go see this girl live. You'll be at Disney World coming up soon,
I'll
right?
be at Disney. Everything's going to be on tiffanytunes.com, guys. I'm a little silent right now because I'm taking a break. I'm in the garden, working on
Smart.
all my holistic stuff and meditation to keep me renewed and for the next realm of touring, because it is like its own realm. But that'll be all coming out. I think, probably things will be popping up probably about September, August, September. All the new dates.
So exciting. I love you so much.
I love you too.
So fun
This
to
is
talk
getting
to you.
easier. I love it. We've got our tea.
Cheers, guys.
I'm not sleeping just to wake up on the floor. I'm not sleeping.
나는 삐죽해 바람 나게 기스긴 너 more 나를 기다려 나는 삐죽해 바람 나게 기스긴 너 more 나를
Wake up.
기다려
I'm not sleeping just to wake up on the floor. I'm not sleeping anymore.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for all updates. Thanks.